Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Magic Maker project for hobby hoppers. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steph Williams. I'm a paper crafter and card maker from Queensland, Australia. Each month for this amazing small Aussie business, I get to make a project and show you how I did it. And this month I'm showing you how I made this card, featuring products that are newly stocked in the Hobby Hoppers shop. So as well as the Hive 5 set that Lawn Fawn did release a little while ago that shops are now allowed to stock, I'm using the Magic Iris Beehive die, the new fishtail banners, some of the Elephant Parade add-ons from a previous release, and my favourite new alphabet die set. I'm using some of the adorable coloured papers from the Stripes and Sprinkles paper pad. Today I'm going with blue, pink and yellow, and I figured I'd grab them all from the same paper stack so that they are in, I guess, the right hue to go with each other. So here I am using this new little die set. I have been dying to play with this one, and what I'm doing is just adding some blue and pink little banners, and then I'm alternating the little hearts that this has cut out. So I did have to make sure I saved the hearts. I didn't let them go missing. They're so tiny, but I'm sure you'll agree that this is a very, very cute look. Once my banners are done, I set them aside to dry, and now I'm going to move on to my background. So here I have a piece of white cardstock that I've cut with Lawn Fawn's largest stitch rectangle die. This is typically the size that I make all of my card backgrounds. And what I've got here is the Lawn Fawn cloud stencil. I do have their newer cloud stencil, but when I pictured this card in my head, I just had these big rolling clouds on my mind, so I went with this one instead. And I'm using some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink to make those cloud shapes, and then just to go around the edges so that nothing here is too bright white. To give the background some texture, I've just added a little bit of this ink to my craft mat, watered it down, and I'm sprinkling that all over. And this card would not be mine if there was no sparkle added, so of course I have my Starry watercolor paint set, and I'm using the white gold just to add a few flecks to the background. And now I'm stamping a bunch of those adorable bees from the Hive 5 set. I wish that wasn't so tricky to say. It's so hard to say quickly. So I'm stamping a bunch of bees in all the little positions and one of the honey pots. So if you couldn't guess what the theme was for this card at the very beginning when I showed it, it is a housewarming card. And I've made a few bee cards recently, and I was looking at a bunch of bee puns, and this is one of the ones that I came across where it says happy house swarming instead of happy housewarming. I know that's lame and ridiculous, but you can bet I giggled at it, and I thought it would make a very cute card, especially with that beehive die. And as you can see on the left here, I've already cut that from some yellow paper. Because this is such a bright and pale colour scheme, I didn't want to go too wild with the colours that I'm doing for everything else. So I am going with a very soft yellow and orange for my bees. I'm using some grey on their wings just to give it a tiny bit of dimension. And their little party accessories will match the pink and blue, just so that my colour palette doesn't get out of hand. I do add just a little bit of brown to this honey pot. I think this is just because this seems to be my favourite way to colour in this particular image. After my bees all get little cheeks, I then go over my images with my white Gelly Roll pen. Today I'm using the 0.8 because these bees are a little bit small. I couldn't have my beehive hanging out of thin air, so I did colour in this branch that goes with that set. I'm not very good at colouring in the die cut pieces that aren't stamped, so I'm kind of glad that one gets a bit chopped off and hidden. I'll be adding some dimension to all of my letters today. So what I'm going to do with these is add their white highlights first, so that I'm not pushing on them and squishing them later. And all of these letters come together to make the word swarming. So my original idea for how I had these little stamps set out on this card was to have a few of the bees carrying the pot of honey. And I thought it was a little bit funny because it's a housewarming party and these two bees looked like they were carrying a keg to the party. And I didn't know if that was appropriate. Trish, the owner of Hobby Hoppers, has a fantastic sense of humour. I know she'd probably be totally okay with that, but I just thought to keep things friendly for everybody, I decided to go with the bees moving in and unpacking, and in a box is the pot of honey. So what I've got here is my favourite box stamp ever. I've used this in more cards than I can count. And while I'm here, I'm also stamping the balloons from the elephant parade. I just figured balloons would be perfect to have outside of the beehive, because growing up that was always the way to tell where the party was. There were balloons tied to the mailbox outside. So we're going to add some balloons too. Now I could have stamped out Happy House, but my patience is thin. So I did cheat with this one, and I dug through my lawn fawn stash to find this little village stamp set that has the words Happy Housewarming, stamping them but avoiding the warming part. And I'm going to be embossing this with some white embossing powder. Now I'm going to start assembling my background. This part I don't think was entirely necessary, but I did just want to adhere all of this into one piece. And so I'm using the insert that was removed from the beehive. It doesn't have any extra stitching, which makes me happy, because sometimes I've noticed with the lawn fawn dies, the piece that gets cut out of a larger piece has a stitch detail. And that to me just adds more detail than what I need. But this one stayed plain, so I thought it was perfect to fill in that space. And what I've done there is just add my little images. I've got my little box with the honey pot sticking out of it. While I'm here, I'm going to add some double-sided tape to my background, and this is a good idea for me to do it before I start adding dimension to the front of the card, just so that my things don't get crushed later when I need to flip it over and add the tape. So while I'm assembling this background, now is the perfect time to talk about Hobby Hoppers. If you're unfamiliar with the brand, Hobby Hoppers is a small online Aussie business based in Melbourne. I have been working with Hobby Hoppers for a little while now on the creative team, and it is so much fun. I absolutely love my monthly videos where I get to play with the products and show you what you can make. Hobby Hoppers stocks a huge range of things, not just lawn fawn, though you'll mostly see lawn fawn in my videos because it is most definitely one of my favourite brands. The jelly roll pens that I use are stocked at Hobby Hoppers. I've been having a lot of fun with Posca markers, the acrylic paint markers. The Starry watercolour set and a bunch more watercolour sets are available on the website, along with a huge range of card making materials and more washi tape than I'm sure anyone could ever hope to use in their lifetime. If you'd like to check out Hobby Hoppers, I'm going to make sure the link is in the description for this video, along with all of the links to the products that I'm using today. So as you can see here, I am adding my little banners, and I have trimmed them down just a little bit so I can get multiple uses out of those bigger pieces. I'm not sure if you saw me struggling before, but I found it really tricky to find where to place the words Happy House. So I decided to move my beehive over to the side to give it a bit of space over here. I think I like the placement of it. I like how it turned out in the end. So there are those balloons to show where the party's happening. If the banners weren't enough, and then once all my banners are down, I'm going to start arranging these bees. And I did a mix of bees that are simply glued on and some that have some foam squares on the back of them for a bit of dimension. Aren't they just adorable with their little party hats and party blowers? So all that's left is to trim off all the excess to tidy up the edges of this card front. Then I'm going to remove the backing to my double-sided tape and adhere this to a card base. And there we have it! This Happy Housewarming card is complete. I hope you enjoyed this video. This card was so much fun to make. Don't forget to check out Hobby Hoppers and all the links below. I'll see you next month for some Christmas themed Hobby Hoppers Magic Maker projects. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.